Mining company Kumba Iron Ore released their interim results. That's for the 6 months ended the 30th of June 2022. The company reported achieving revenue of 42.9 billion rand and an EBITDA margin of 54%, with its return on capital employed coming in at 98%. Shareholders are set to receive an interim dividend of 28 rand 70 cents a share. Meanwhile, the company is boasting having had 6 years of fatality-free production. Well, to tell us more about the results, I'm joined by Mpumi Zikalala. She's the CEO of Kumba Iron Ore. Thank you very much for joining us, Mpumi. How did the company perform in monetary terms in the period where iron ore prices still pumping on international markets?
Thank you so much, Nombu. Firstly, thank you for that. I'd like to comment on safety first. I think the fact that we've completed 6 years of fatality-free production is most probably our greatest achievement. And then coming to the bottom line, yes, you spoke about it. A 54% EBITDA margin is something that we are excited about. And then if you look at it from an iron ore price perspective, we achieved FOB prices of 136 rands, and these prices were 15% above the benchmark. So we are excited indeed by our results.
Mpumi, just to touch on your response about the fatality, some might say, you're just lucky. Or what's your response to that? How have you managed to ensure that no one dies on your operations?
I would certainly say that it's not luck. It's through the hard work of all the wonderful men and women that work at Kumba, and that includes all our employees and contractors. And I'm very proud of the team because there's a lot of work that's been done through programs including elimination of fatalities programs, risk reduction programs, and a great deal of work around culture. So when it comes to the safety and health of our people, we take a zero tolerance approach, and that for us is a value.
So what's happening on the production side? You're reporting that as much as you did well on the financial side, your production was actually down some 13%. And also tell us about the issue of getting cargo or product to the ports through Transnet in order to export it. Has that been a difficulty for you?
Yeah, so our production was down at 17.8 million tons, and that was impacted by a couple of factors. Firstly, we experienced high levels of rain in the first quarter, especially at Kolomela, where we experienced double the amount of rain compared to what we experienced at Sishen. And then secondly, we also slowed down our production following a safety intervention that we ran at our mines. As I said, for us, safety is a value. So yes, our production was down, but we are well set up to drive stable and capable operations in the second half of this year.
Yeah.
From a logistics perspective, we saw some interruptions from a Transnet perspective, and we continue working with Transnet simply because we can only win together with Transnet.
Now, we know that the mining sector is a cyclical one. There are concerns around significant economies in the world going into a recession, and this could be adverse for the mining sector. We know that Kumba has this sustainable mining plan. How does that speak to global cycles such as these?
It's an interesting one. I think two things. Firstly, insofar as the markets are concerned, we expect to continue to see premiums simply because as Kumba, we pride ourselves on the delivery of high quality iron ore. We do know that the challenges that we are seeing globally will clearly affect all players. The key for us is to continue controlling the things that we can control. And what you've mentioned, which is our sustainable mining plan, remains key. This essentially covers all the critical areas of ESG. We are looking at getting to carbon neutrality by 2040. That will not change. We are looking after our biodiversity. We are looking at reducing our water consumption. And on the second pillar, from a social perspective, we will continue building towards thriving communities. And clearly governance is an area that we would never compromise upon. So even with all the challenges that we see on the macroeconomic front, key for us is what we look at a sustainable mining plan is something that we'll continue committing to.
Just on that issue of sustainability and carbon footprint and all of that, how are you going to ensure that you're cleaner in the mining process?
So a couple of things. This is an area that's of great interest for us. So firstly, we look at our space from a decarbonization perspective in terms of all three areas. Scope 1 perspective, when it comes to the fact that we still utilize diesel-fueled machinery. Here, we are excited by the pilot that's being run at Anglo American Platinum, our sister company. As you know, they launched the first hydrogen fuel truck. And certainly this is a way that we'll look at into the future as we look at reducing our Scope 1 emissions. From a Scope 2 emission perspective, we are very much excited by a couple of things. So firstly, at Kumba, we will be looking at a 65 megawatt solar PV plant at Sishen Mine. But in addition to that, as part of the broader Anglo-American group, we are looking at what we call the regional renewable energy ecosystem, where we are looking at circa 3 to 5 gigawatts of power, renewable power coming from solar, wind, and hydro. And clearly with this, we are excited by the announcements that were made by the president yesterday.
I was going to ask you that very question, so thanks for that. Mpumi, pleasure talking to you and all the best going forward. Mpumi Zikalala, she's the CEO of Kumba Iron Ore.